Alright you guys, and welcome back to a brand new sculpting video. And Oggy, I'ma sculpt Oggy and the cockroaches. Except, despite the insane value for wiener jokes, I won't be making any cockroaches today. However, I'll make up for the lag of $3 by making my Oggy extremely muscular. So with a beautiful blue mixed using all types of clay, I ought to make a sturdy armature for my future masses of muscle to be built on. So after adding an initial layer of clay, it's time for a very successful bulk since my frame will only be gaining muscle without any fat. And to portray my French cat as roided up and shredded, I'll start by giving him an octet of abs alongside his massive chest. Carving out the 8-pack, brick by brick. Followed by pronouncing his shreds by adding very pronounced obliques. Then it's on to Oggy's back, which I'll try to give a similar level of detail as the front, in a failed attempt of not ruining all the detail I've already made in the front. So after crying over ruined progress and resculpting it, I can get on to building his arms. Where I'll start out by covering a bent aluminum wiener in clay. Once fully covered, I'ma go ahead and carve out all the essential muscles of the arm, making them adequately big, which I can only imagine being a result of French scientists testing steroids on cats in the 90s. And with 2 muscular wieners done, I can make a glove for each tip, which is where I'd like to end the metaphor since it's getting a little weird. So after rolling 2 equally sized white balls of clay, both of which will be getting 4 fingers, leaving one of them open-handed and the other forming a fist shape. With my gloves done, I can attach the arms to the body, blending them in with thematically accurate massive shoulders. And with the upper body done, we're on to making his lower body. Now, Oggy might have short legs, however every gym goer knows that being short is beneficial for filling your frame with muscle. So I won't be holding back when it comes to the size of his legs. So 2 thick thighs of muscle later, and I can press the legs to the torso. Blending them to his butt, and speaking of which, I know what y'all have been waiting for, including myself. I'ma be giving Oggy a nice muscular butt. Which now brings us on to the topmost part of any body, the head. And here I won't be altering the original design too much, since after all, Oggy should still be somewhat recognizable. That being said, I started out by making his banana-esque shaped mouth, fitted with 1 tongue and 2 teeth, and blended in with the addition of a lip. I'll fill his empty eye sockets in a way of adding 2 eyes, as well as giving him a relatively big and relatively red nose. And after adding 2 horny ears, his head is done and ready for attachment to the body, which will be done by giving him a big strong neck. And to improve his ability in standing up straight, I made a base out of a flattened ball covered with clay and embellished with 2 feet. I can then bake my 3-parted cat, didn't forget about the tail, and get started painting. First up, I'll apply a red wash to the mouth and my sculpting mat apparently, and then get to covering my already blue kitty in some more thinned out blue paint. With the full body covered, I can highlight all the deep cuts and striations, separating the copious amounts of muscle, using a dark blue wash. And handling the cat while sculpting dirtied up all the white parts, so I reprimed his teeth, eyes and gloves white. I then painted the back of his head black, presumably cause he'd like to be Batman, followed by making his nose shine like Rudolph's via some red paint. And since after spending all those hours working out, Oggy's not just sweating like a pig, but sweating like a cat, so I gave his gloves a nasty sweaty look. And with such a body, there is no doubt when it comes to him being sponge-worthy, so I'll be using a sponge for some lighter blue highlights. Working my way all over his body up until his butt. Then it's on to some final details of the face and eyes, most of which I added off camera since frankly I just do not have the balls for adding make or break details to a sculpture while having a camera obscuring my view. Lazy excuses aside, I can make his eyes shine by covering them in some UV resin, as well as gluing his whiskers into pre-poked holes on his cheeks. I then glued the tail into his butthole, there was no need to say it like that. Anyways, we're on to the base. And since the grey stone base looks a bit sad, I opted for a much happier and brighter grassy coverage. So after adding the same white primer and wash to the feet, I can achieve sad grassy coverage with the application of some static grass using the Star of Base Building, a static grass applicator. Before adding said grass though, I auto-lay a sticky foundation using Mod Podge and paint for my blades to be sprouting from. And with lawn and feet complete, I can glue Oggy into place, and that's one hell of a muscular cat done. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Let me know down below which beloved character I should make a muscular version of next. Leave a like for cats and subscribe, baby! And if you want to go one step further, checking out my Patreon for extra support is very much appreciated. And now I recommend you watch my last week's video where I made a realistic Mugman. And with all that being said, I'll catch you in the next one, and I'll love you all. Bye.